So I've been referencing a lot. I just got back from Nashville where I did a debate with Michael Knowles, the Daily Wire host, as well as the Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw. And they were both sort of taking, even though Michael Knowles was waffling a little bit, but they were both sort of taking the pro-war with Iran stance. And one of the things that kept coming up is them saying, if we strike them hard enough, then that will be a form of deterrence. And despite us not putting boots on the ground, which even they seem to admit would be disastrous, we will strike our way, bomb our way to the Iranian regime. While it will still be the same regime with just some of the leaders dead, it'll pound them into submission. And then they'll end up going, okay, you know what? We want to negotiate with you and we don't want to do all these bad things to you anymore. It doesn't sound right based on what I feel like I've learned in history, that wars like this often actually escalate tensions. Might shock you to find out. But that was their argument, right? You're going to scare them so much they're going to go, okay, we won't be so anti-American anymore. Well, so far, so bad. That's not happening. And instead, you're getting escalatory and terrifying statements out of the Iranian regime like this. A senior Iranian cleric has delivered a scathing address to the Iranian people during which he demands the shedding of Trump's blood. This was aired on Iranian state TV. Quote, "We are now on the verge of a great test, and we must be careful to fully preserve this unity, to fully preserve this alliance." In addition, he demanded the shedding of Zionist blood, the shedding of Trump's blood, urging the followers to fight the oppressive America. His blood is on my shoulders. So that's one example, right? Of instead of, okay, all right, we're going to stop now. Now we're like chill with you. It's the opposite direction, which is freaky and expected. And then you have another Iranian official saying, oh, we're ready for a ground invasion and we're not open to negotiating. So could that change? Yes. Despite me being opposed to this war, do I hope it does change? Yeah, obviously. Do I think that they'll also try to hype up their ability to fight? Yes. But we're already seeing disastrous consequences. Americans dead, children dead. We now have reportedly at this point, preliminarily, the military investigation into that school that was hit by joint U.S. and Israeli strikes. It was us, and it did lead to hundreds of people, innocent civilians dead, including children. And U.S. bases are being hit. Our allies in the region are being hit. And still, we're waiting for a coherent, what's the end goal here? When is this over from the Trump administration? Just the quickest pause for the video amid all of this chaos. If you do appreciate these updates, please click the subscribe button, click the like button. Both of those are completely free, but subscribe is the most important to support what we do. Back to the video. And then one other example, you know how during the Biden administration, anytime he would like give aid to Ukraine, MAGA would screech, he's pulling us into World War III with Russia. Well, I wonder what they would say about this. Russia's providing, according to the Washington Post, Iran intelligence to target U.S. forces. The targeting information has included the locations of American warships and aircraft in the Middle East. But despite that, at like the same time, Javier Blas reporting, breaking, U.S. Treasury eases oil sanctions on the Kremlin, allowing Indian refineries to buy the millions of barrels of Russian crude on floating storage until early April. Massive win for Putin. So easing sanctions on Russia while we're getting information that they're assisting Iran's ability to hit Americans. That's actually what you look at as a potential global escalation that could have catastrophic consequences. And then every time you say, okay, so here's all this news, my heart rate, let's look to the president, maybe he can ease our concerns. Mr. President, we're hearing that there could be domestic backlash, domestic terrorist attacks after this war has been started that the majority of Americans do not want. Should we be afraid of that, of being killed here at home? And his response, I guess, he says, But I think they're worried about that all the time. We think about it all the time. We plan for it. But yeah, we expect some things. Like I said, some people will die. When you go to war, some people will die. That in addition to him responding to American troops being killed by saying that's the way it is. But in a phone call with Dana Bash, and this is weird. I saw Mehdi Hassan calling this out. This is weird. These non-right-wing media outlets like CNN, okay, that are supposed to be a check on the government's power, and some of their coverage has been really, really good on that. But they'll take these phone calls with Trump and then just like exactly relay what he says and be like, oh, this is what he says. Something feels off about that. But he says that he rates out of 10 the war with Iran at anywhere between a 12 and a 15. Quote, we're doing very well militarily, better than anybody could have even dreamed. Meanwhile, you have reports that Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio are feuding over the approach to Iran. You know how a lot of these defenders of Trump will say, no, I agree. They keep moving the goalpost, right, by the way. Back whenever it was 3 seconds before the war started, and then all the way back to Trump getting into politics, you had people say about him, okay, he might be low character. Okay, he might have lied there. Okay, he might have tried to steal the election. Maybe they won't admit that, but he's going to be the president of peace. Tulsi Gabbard, he's going to be the president of peace. She's been railing against a war with Iran for like her entire career. And then he starts a war with Iran, and they're like, okay, all right, so we didn't mean that. Now it's war's okay, but if it's like really quickly going to lead to peace, then he's still the president of peace. But he's not going to put boots on the ground. There's not going to be a ground invasion. Despite if you're saying the accomplishment would be a regime change, you would almost certainly have to have boots on the ground, which would lead to so many casualties. But now you have reports that one of them is arguing with the other about whether or not they should send troops on the ground. So that is being considered. And it's causing a feud between the two of them. The White House was like, no, that's not true. This was what I referenced about that strike. American forces were responsible for a strike on an Iranian girls' school that killed at least 150 students and staff. Dozens of little children. But hey, Trump rates it 12 or 15 out of 10. Pretty heinous. And it's heinous that Iranian forces killed Americans. And when we say we don't want our leaders, and this is something I got into it with Michael Knowles over, we don't want our leaders to send our troops into harm's way unnecessarily, and many of them will lose their lives. That's not to say then when they are sent in and if they lose their lives, it's their fault. Not at all. It's the leader's fault. It's the enemy's fault for killing them. And we should take responsibility when we're doing war crimes or killing a bunch of civilians. And criticizing that is not being anti-American. It's actually the epitome of being pro-American.
He quickly turned to Cuba. He said, without being asked, Cuba is going to fall pretty soon, by the way, but Cuba is going to fall. They want to make a deal so badly. And I asked, how so? He said, they want to make a deal, so I'm going to put Marco over there, and we'll see how that works.
So this is something both Lindsey and Trump are now doing. When they get asked about Iran, they'll be like, oh, yeah, it's going to go. Also Cuba. You can't even keep your mind on one at a time? Wild. And then you had people posting this Donald Rumsfeld clip on the Iraq War. Okay, so this is February 7th, 2003. See if you hear any similarities.
It is not knowable if force will be used, but if it is to be used, it is not knowable how long that conflict would last. It could last, 6 days, 6 weeks. I doubt 6 months.
Obviously, it turned into years, thousands dead, and a region even further destabilized. So it feels like we're hearing similar things here now. Oh, it could be. They actually do this similar breakdown. They're like, it could be days or weeks, maybe months, but I doubt very long. But when you don't have a plan and you kind of do one wave of strikes and they go, okay, have we fixed the problem? No. Another wave of strikes. Okay, well, I got it worse. Oh, they're making even worse threats towards us. Okay, another wave. And then you end up having arguments about why. Maybe what we have to do is do a ground invasion. And then you try that, and then it further gets destabilized, and on and on and on. And next thing you know, you have a 20-year catastrophic war.